we did get a New Japan show February 11th. What a show.
Surprise.
What a show. New Japan returned to Osaka to do New Beginnings. What a great show. That Osaka crowd really elevated this from a pretty good show to one of my favorite shows of the year already. That crowd was fantastic throughout. Um, and we got several great matches on here, got some big surprises. We got a lot of story developments from last year moving forward. Just an excellent show all around.
Yeah, it was a late night show, so I didn't know what was going on. And then I hadn't been on the internet. And so I go on and I was like, wait, is this real? Is this good? We had talked about it going into this when Goto won the option to have this match. It was like, I don't know, you don't really think that's an option that what could happen because Goto's been around for so long and he's been in so many situations and all these things happen. But then I started to watch the match, Phil, and the crowd instantly the crowd, I was like, oh, I see. So when you talk about the Osaka crowd, like, no, they were on a different level that night. And it's just like New Japan is the way that they do their main events and the way that the camera works and the way that it's just so different than everybody else. That's the one thing that continues to separate them from any other wrestling company.
Yeah, this felt like New Japan 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just how hot this crowd was, like all the positive buzz around it. When Goto was announced as the main eventer here, how the ticket sales went up for it, and you could see just how much that crowd was into it once this show started. The main event is the real story of this show.
Wow.
Man, they ran the video package for Goto to start this thing, and you could kind of feel it there how special this match felt. As them running down his history with the company. He talked about his family, of course. He talked about his kids a lot during the G1 run last year. He brought his kids out, and it felt like that was the start of something. Of course, like we said earlier, the Rambo was for a shot at the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Goto won that and earned a shot at the championship, earned a shot at Zack Sabre Jr. I knew that people wanted him to win.
Yeah.
I was very much in doubt of could he win.
Right.
But like I said, when they aired that video package and when he came out there, that crowd popped huge for him. I was like, oh, wow. I don't know if he loses this match, that crowd might riot because that crowd was there for Goto. As soon as he walked out, the Goto chants were super loud, and the whole time I was thinking, what a moment for him. If you know your New Japan history, Goto, of course, was a G1 winner. I believe that was 2008. He won a G1, did not win the championship. He then went on to win 2 New Japan Cups in a row. Both times failed to win the championship. He's been the bridesmaid, not the bride, for his entire tenure getting up to this point. All the way to the point that people were like, oh, it's Goto. Goto has great performances. We know he's one of them guys. You put him in a G1, he's going to have great matches, but he's not going to win the big one. And so that was the whole story coming into this. He talked about, like, again, his kids, his family. His father just passed away, and he talked about wanting to win this match for his father and dedicate it to him. That crowd, man. Osaka wanted him to win this match, and you could feel it throughout the match. Zach came out to his remix of his current theme, which is still fire to me. Big Zach guy. I wanted Zach to win this, but when the match started and that crowd was loud, I'm like, oh no, it feels like it's his time. It's kind of like what we saw with Zach in the G1, where with every win and the longer this went on, you can feel it. It's like it's his time. When he won the G1, I was like, yeah, it's his time. And what a run! What a historic run! Yeah. First British G1 winner, went on to defend the belt in his home country at Royal Quest. 2 nights in a row, title defenses at the Dome. No one has ever done that. What a run. 160 days as champion. I kind of wanted his run to keep going, but for a first world title run, pretty incredible.
Yep, and it doesn't have to be the longest reigns in the world for him to be impactful and historic, and I think that's what Zack Sabre Jr. did. But yeah, Phil, there's been a rare occasions, you could probably count on 2 hands, when the crowd is so behind a wrestler, there's no way a wrestler can lose. And that's what this situation felt like.
Yes.
As soon as Goto appeared on the screen, they were like, there's no way he could lose this match. There's no way. The crowd is in his corner. They are fighting with everything they got for this guy to win. And you could just feel as the match progressed on, they got even hotter. They're like, they could feel it in the air. The wrestlers could feel it in the air. The commentators could feel it in the air. It just felt like such a huge moment.
Yeah. Great match as well. All of his comeback spots hit because that crowd was so loud and they were so locked in throughout this match. The lariats he was hitting every time, the crowds popped big for him. Zach was getting all the holds in, and I could see it the more and more the match went on. He started doing more and more heelish things. I was like, oh yeah, I see it. Goto's winning. And so midway through, I was like, yeah, I can see it. But what a great moment, man. You can't book these things, man. No. This felt very organic. And I think the thing that's so great about where New Japan is as a company in its transitional phase, where you don't have all of the top main eventers anymore. You don't have Okada. You don't have Naito in the way that he was a few years ago. Tanahashi's finishing up with the company. So you're rebuilding your entire main event scene, but you also have the time to circle back to all of these guys that have been there as long as Goto has or Zach has. And you can finally give them their moment. You can finally give them their due. And this was long overdue for Goto. Very emotional win for him. I've seen people on the timeline that were saying they shed tears when he finally won because we didn't think this day would ever come. Because like I said, I was not a believer. The longer the match went on, I became a believer. And when he picked up that win, that pop in there was just incredible.
Do you think there's an American equivalent that you could kind of put into perspective on how what this Goto, like, is there a wrestler that you could think of this could happen to, like in WWE, that would be significant to this? Because it's hard. It's hard, right? Because this is such a unique situation. Like you said, like Goto's been going for so long. He got to we all love Goto, but we don't expect him to be world champion place. But when it happened, people wanted it, though. It wasn't like they didn't want it to happen. They just didn't expect it to happen.
It's hard. I mean, you could in some ways compare it to Kofi Mania because he had been there for 11 years. He had been there for so long, and people wanted him to finally get that W. He had never won the world title up to that point. That's close to it.
That's a pretty close one.
I mean, Bray winning at Elimination Chamber is pretty close as well for me because that was special, seeing Bray finally winning. We don't have to talk about what happened afterwards.
It's erased out of my memory. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about the feud that happened afterwards, but I think finally about him winning at Elimination Chamber so much because I was a Bray guy. But yeah, this was just special. That moment of the confetti coming down and he's out there with his kids, just special. Incredible moment.
Unbelievable. And the crowd, like the 1, 2, 3, and the crowd just being like, we can't believe we're experiencing this moment. The emotion on his face when his family gets in there, just like all of that, and knowing that, you know, as a wrestler, and Goto's been through so many New Japan transitions, Phil, like he's seen the highs of the highs, he's seen the lows of the lows. He's been there through all that, and he's never been one to bitch and complain, and he's always going to give it 100%. Like he earned it in the Rambo, but he really earned it just throughout his career, being a great guy, a great wrestler, and a dependable one that they can always go to. Just felt like such a great moment for New Japan in this position that they are making this transition thing, and mostly for Goto, who just like put his nose to the ground, just did it, and just earned being world champion.
Yeah, very rewarding moment for Goto. Rewarding moment for longtime New Japan fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a cool moment. Again, I've been saying it for a while. New Japan feels like it's back, but
yes,
this was exciting. This moments like this is why I love pro wrestling, because when you're truly invested in somebody and you've been watching their story for as long as we've watched Goto, just felt great. The G in IWGP does indeed stand for Goto. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I know Zach tried to tell us it didn't in his promos, but it does indeed stand for Goto.